Today's sponsor of the Vision Quest podcast is 920 Hat Company. Leather patch hats are in, and 920 Hat Company is here to hook you up with your very own custom hat. All patches are lasered on top-grade genuine leather and on popular brand hats like Richardson and FlexFit. Whether you're looking to show off your business or want a one-of-a-kind hat for yourself, 920 Hat Company can do it all. All the hats are handcrafted right in the Fox Valley, but worn across America. With over 500 hats in stock, they guarantee fast turnaround times. Honestly, Liam, looking at these hats, solid, right?
Yeah, they're pretty. I like them.
I like that patch itself.
Oh, yeah.
I mean, one-of-a-kind stuff. I know his name's Trevor. He does great work. He's actually gotten I think we got a knit hat coming.
I think so, yeah.
Yeah, we got that coming. So we're really excited to have these guys on board as a sponsor. So get down to check them out on Facebook. I believe they're on Instagram. Check them out, man. They got the best hats, I think, in the Fox Valley, if not in the state.
Yes, sir.
Yes, sir. So get down to 920 Hat Company on social media and check them out. All right, everybody. We have returned for another episode of the Vision Quest podcast. Today we are joined by a very special guest. We have yet another of one of the big names that came out of the NCAA tournament this year. We have with us 197-pound NCAA Division I champion, Nino Bonaccorsi. How are you doing, man?
Hey, how you doing? I appreciate you having me, and it's funny every time someone introduces me is that it kind of takes me back. It makes me feel good. So
yeah, hell yeah. Well, you earned it, man. It's big. I think I watched your Heavyweight Nation podcast too. It was pretty good. You said the same thing. Pat said the same thing too. He's like, Brad, that'll never get old, man.
Dude, it's great. I've been wanting to hear that for so long, and now I'm like, every time I get it, I'm like, hell yeah.
Oh yeah, that's right, man. You earn it. So I was just watching through the week. I've been watching a couple videos here and there, and then watching the AJ Ferrari match from 2021, and then kind of coming around and seeing. It's funny how things have come around for you. Like, I've watched only a little bit of you. I haven't been able to see every single thing. I think I've seen maybe a couple of the high school matches you've had, things like that. But it's kind of amazing that the background you have. You got a brother that was in wrestling and things like that. But you were different. You wrestled different. And everybody says they're different people. Of course they're different people. But a lot of times you pick up habits, you pick up little things. But you were kind of your own thing. I kind of dubbed you the angle finder. That's
I like that. Yeah.
So when I called you, I was like, the guy just, there's a couple times I think I saw you with your eyes closed doing a move. and I was like, his eyes were just closed right there. Like, he just knew it was there. So there's a lot of natural instinct in you. So I'm kind of interested, and we want to find out from, like I said, from beginning to end. So being that your brother was in wrestling, was this just predetermined for you? Did you just love the sport right away? And how was that support system as a young guy, kind of people saying, hey, you should do this sport? How did you get into wrestling? How did that all start for you?
Yeah. Well, like you said, I don't really think I had a choice. My dad, he got my brother into wrestling, and it wasn't like my family had like super deep wrestling roots. I had a couple cousins that wrestled, obviously, but okay. It kind of started with my dad, taking my brother to youth tournaments and all over, and essentially I was like a baby, so I would just tag along with them. So I always joke that I grew up in a wrestling gym. It was just something like, I don't really remember a time in my life where I wasn't involved in wrestling. So I just think, wow, I obviously fell in love with the sport. I just felt like I didn't have a situation where it's like there is no other way, if that makes sense. So it was just something that was me, it was like my lifestyle. And
so when you got into it, I mean, you come, so let's see, you went to high school at Bethel Park, right?
Yep.
So that area how was that as a youth? Like, what kind of clubs did you have? Cause you were born in 96. You were born right around the time I was getting out of high school. So you were born in 96. What was the environment of wrestling around there as a youth kid? How was that? Was it greatly dynamic, or was it just you nonstop monsters around you? Like how was that for you as a kid coming up in wrestling?
Yeah. Well, so I was born in actually 1998. I'm 24. Yeah.
I did read it wrong. Yeah, dude. That was after I got out of high school.
Yeah, not that old yet.
Yeah.
Well, Bethel, especially the not only Bethel Park where I was from, but just our Whippeal, like southwestern Pennsylvania, is just a real hotbed of wrestling.
Yep.
It's very deep in terms of, you see a lot of guys at the youth level as well, but in high school and college just have a ton of success. So you really didn't have to travel super far to find competition.
Sure.
It was like every weekend you'd be in brackets with some of those top names every single weekend. So that prepares you in its own sense. And, I feel like it was good for me in a way. I didn't have to travel super far, but, so my club growing up, I went to, Pittsburgh. It was with my coach his name was Sonny Abe.
Okay.
So I went with, so that was that was one of the toughest. it was just like the way he ran practice, man. And some of my partners, growing up, like, Eric Hong, Vincenzo Joseph, like all those guys every night. It was very demanding, but I always, to say the least, it was demanding. So I always kind of look back on those times I'd go there, and
for sure,
it was great because it was funny because we would travel as a team to like these doles, these team like club doles, and we would win every weekend. So it was like it was a very deep room, and it was just it was great.
Well, and a lot of the trips that we take as far as wrestling, I mean, because we're in the Midwest. I mean, obviously we have good wrestlers here. It's not like we don't, but the East Coast is a mecca. Like that's like I mean, that right now California is coming up. The West Coast they got some good wrestlers too, but that's only been so long. But East Coast has just been a grind coast forever. So I had a dual team that we took out there too. And it was, we weren't getting routed, but there's so many kids on some of these Pennsylvania teams that like, if they made one team, like they'd beat the entire country, and it wasn't even an opportunity. So, and that's kind of why I asked that, because I mean, I think we went out to, one of the Tyrant duels out there. This is a while back, but, and it was one of the first times we had been out east kind of wrestling. And I think Liam was like 10 and just blown away. And knowing that some of these guys that come out of that side of the country, and then knowing the background that you guys have as far as just coaches and, in support systems. I mean, you guys, your parents have to be there for, almost all of it. So, a lot of you guys coming up, like you said, your dad kind of put you into it. He kind of got your brother into it stuff too. So where were your parents as far as, you hear about the crazy parents that are on the side of the mat that run off, run out of the bleachers and stuff like that. But where were your parents as far as, I guess a lot of kids maybe in the 8 to 10-year-old age, were they really pushing you like, you got to win this, you got to do this? And how was that relationship and support system for you as a youngster coming up? Did that help grow the sport as far as your love for the sport even more, because you had such a great support system? And obviously you do. It's just kind of interesting how that, on the younger side of it is.
Right. No, yeah. My parents, well, like you said, wrestling parent is in itself insane, but
it is. I can attest.
Yeah, but they were very supportive, and it was more so from the aspect that it was never any pressure to like win, like, we have to win this, have to do that. It was a lot of the mindset of, okay, we're going to commit to this, then we're going to give it our all. It was that thing, like, we're either all in or we're not in.
We're not in. Yeah.
So I always grew up knowing that, like, everything I do, it was not by force, but it was just the concept of we're giving it our all.
Yeah.
And I think with the concept of like that support coming home, and it was funny, even my mom was very like that too. She didn't know what wrestling was, until she met my dad, so she learned real quick that this isn't the normal sport.
Yeah. For sure.
So we so I had that support system obviously growing up, and then combined with, my club in Pitbull, there was really no room for half-assed.
Yeah, right.
I guess, and it
correct.
was all just learning to like instill these habits that I look back on and kind of how they formulated my career. Like I didn't, the intensity got me to a point where I didn't know any other way, but
that
as hard as I can, that sort of makes sense. And it's kind of like, sometimes it was a hard thing to do because like, even in high school, sometimes I'd be going on like doubling up practices and stuff.
Yeah.
I'd be like, dang, it'd be nice to come to practice and just kind of like, just take a chill day. But it's like, I physically couldn't, like, I didn't know how to do that. So it was, yeah.
So with that being said, and because you guys are pushed a lot, out in the East, it's not anything against the coach, it's just the way you guys wrestled. But with that being said, were you dealing with any injuries early because of the pace that, and I guess I don't blame the pace, but just because you realized that you couldn't go halfway, and a lot of the guys that are on top realize that. So when you find that new gear, did you find yourself, were there injuries that came along the way as a youngster, or were you kind of able to plow through just about anything you needed to? How did that kind of pace as far as having to continue that and knowing you have to, because you do have to, but did that create any situations or any kind of issues for any like wrestling that you had?
Man, I'm so fortunate that I actually didn't have any serious injuries growing up.
Nice. Okay.
Yeah. So I know, like you said, like, at a pace like that, sometimes it's easy to see guys getting hurt, and I have seen it, but I've been so blessed that I haven't, had any. I mean, obviously you get bumps and bruises here and there. I mean, but the only thing I kind of had was I was in 8th grade, like a summer thing, and I ended up like breaking my shoulder, and they thought I needed surgery, but they like more like dislocated. Yeah, they like pulled it back in. So that was like one of the more like serious ones, but it ended up not being as bad as it sounds.
Were you doing the Mel Gibson thing like Matt side, where someone just popped your shoulder back into place?
So it was weird. So I was wrestling this kid, and I stood up, and he had my arm trapped, and he mat returned me. So I couldn't post. It was landing right on my shoulder. And it was the last match. So we ended up I was like, I can't really move it. So we just left the tournament. And,
I can't move it, guys. This is not good.
I was like, I'm not moving this, and it was, I always think back because the trainer who was there, he kept trying to touch it. She's like, I was like, I don't want you to touch it. I was like, she's like, well, I can't do anything. I'm like, all right, we're going to the hospital.
We're out of here.
We're out of here.
Yeah.
So
holy cow.
And that was in Ohio, so we were far away from home. So it was
that's funny, because that's where we're down at the middle school duels for Liam, and he got hurt down there too. He actually didn't have his arm trapped. He actually had his arm free, and he posted with his hand, and he broke his hand. So that was, crazy. And that's the first injury, injury he ever had. But that was 6 weeks, and we were done with the season anyway. So it kind of worked out. But right. Yeah, it's crazy with and that's why I kind of asked, because even some of the tournaments that we went to is you saw a lot of these kids and parents aside, but it just looked like they were just being pushed to a pace. Just like it was crazy, but they were just flying through everyone, and they knew what they were doing. So it just seems like it's something that's instilled out east, that's slowly creeping its way to the rest of the country, So
it's taking its time.
Yeah, it's taking its time a little bit. So what were some of the, as a youth, what were some of the bigger tournaments that you did hit? That kind of, I guess, would solidify in your mind that you're like, yeah, this is, I'm beating these guys. This is a national, level tournament. Like what kind of tournaments were you hitting as a kid?
Yeah. So we would always, like I was saying, I feel like some of my confidence grew from just my room. Yeah. Some of the guys you practice with, you would just, you had confidence there. Yeah. And then the Dole team, we would go to like McDonough Doles, Wildwood Doles, Virginia Beach. I don't know if they still do the VAC Doles of the AC. Mm-hmm. Yes, we did those goals like with Team Pennsylvania and stuff like that.
Nice.
And then some of the we would do like Super 32, like the middle school, Flow Nationals, Tournament of Champions, just like a bunch of like, so like something, I know this is like a big youth one, the Tulsa Nationals.
Yeah.
So I never did Tulsa. So that's like,
I don't think you needed to, dude.
Yeah, that was a big one that everyone always like. They're like, "You a Tulsa champ?" I'm like, "Never been to Tulsa."
Where's that?
But I know. I know. Well, it's funny, full circle now that Nationals was in Tulsa.
Right.
So I could say, yeah, I won Tulsa in some capacity.
I am a Tulsa champ, baby. That's right. Yeah. So
that's what age I was.
So when you were wrestling as a kid and going through some of this, I just kind of popped in my head is were you, I guess as a youngster, where was the moment that you decided this is what I want to do? I just want to wrestle. I don't want to try any other sports. This is just what I want to do. Was that early or did that click maybe more towards high school?
Yeah, it's a good question. I think so. This is going to sound blasphemous almost, but growing up, so I played a couple different sports growing up.
Okay.
So like wrestling was always my priority.
Okay.
Like that was always the one I felt like I was going to continue to do. But I played football and baseball and soccer.
Nice.
And then so multi-sport athlete.
Yeah. You're well rounded.
So then it was in middle school, and I was just playing football and wrestling at the time, and I decided that it's starting to get to a point where I think I'm going to need to like specify like one. I got to pick. And obviously I knew it was going to be wrestling, so I decided. So that was leading into middle school Super 32.
Okay.
So I went and I'm like, all right. So I had a full summer of just like wrestling and and I went and I had some, tough competition. I had, I think I forget. I think I wrestled David Carr actually in one of my matches. So it was just a lot. Shit. Yeah. So I had I'd say it was crazy back then, man. It was just, so I ended up winning the tournament. And I was like, this is, and I got that belt, and I'm like, I kind of want some more of these. So I figured, it was that. Yeah. I'm like, I think I got something going here. So
nice. So that was your first real kind of taste of like, this is it. This is what I'm going to be doing.
Yeah.
Man. So
because I'm well, sorry.
No, go ahead.
The youth was like, you have success as a youth, but like we were starting to get a little older at that point, and it's like. There's a difference, between like you're winning the youth level, then you start as you start to get in the middle school, and you're like, these guys are starting to get real good. So that was like I always felt like I could do good, but that was one moment that I felt like I could stick out and be like, that was a time where I was pretty proud.
Right on.
But yeah.
Good. Well, so with your youth progress and the things that you started to see in yourself, where are your parents in the grand scheme? Because like you said, they said that we're either all in or we're not in, right? So when you made that choice of like, this is it, this is what I want to do, did they start ramping up everything that you were doing? Like, we're going to go here, we're going to go to this tournament, or were they just kind of feeling it out and talking to coaches and finding out from those guys? Were they trying to make informed decisions? Were they going based off of just what they saw? Like, how did they treat that after you decided to make that the one thing that you wanted to do?
Yeah, that's a good question. Well, I think what really helped us was that, my older brother was, he's 6 years older than me.
Yeah.
So, so when he was like, whatever chapter he was in, he was like always a chapter ahead of me.
Sure.
Like I'm in youth, he's like middle school, high school. When I'm in high school, he's in college.
Yep.
So I felt like what they kind of based it off of, they kind of based off of like what my brother was in. So like when I'm in middle school and such, I am like going to the high school practices.
Okay.
So I'm like, I'm kind of like in that mindset of like, I'm wrestling like a league above what I'm at. And then when I'm in high school and and like when my brother's in college, I'm like coming down there a couple times, and I'm implementing college, techniques and mindset sort of things for my brother and my family into like my high school wrestling.
For sure.
So it wasn't like so much that they, oh, I'm going to wrestle now, we're going to like amp it up. It was more so like, okay, how can we like improve the situation we're in?
Sure.
Let's like, so it was more of that, I'd say. And I thank my brother for that, because
he saved you.
Yeah.
Possibly.
I don't know if you say he made it worse. He made a lot of stuff harder.
Right. Yeah. I feel that. Yeah. I'm a younger brother as well. I mean, we were back in the day of the Brands brothers, and my brother would take us. We had an attic wrestling room. We didn't have a basement. We had an attic where it was hot as hell. And he would literally just kill me. He would kick the crap out of me up there. But then I get to ride his back when he ran steps, so that wasn't too bad.
Yeah, right? It's a trade-off.
It was a trade-off.
It's funny because like whenever we so growing up, my mom had this like, there's a little tangent right here, but my mom had this huge bed growing up, and we would always like, we'd say, all right, so when we would fight, when I'm in like I'm 10, 11, we'd go like fight on my mom's bed, and we'd like slam each other, so we had no like percussions, and it would start, we'd be in our living room, and we'd have to like, we had this big like table in the middle, and we'd have to slide the table over because we thought,
Yep,
so we're literally moving furniture, like, so I get that growing up. Yeah,
that's awesome. Awesome.
Yeah, it was great.
So you liked soccer. That's interesting. That was kind of, I wrestled up until like my junior year, but I played soccer forever. I started when I was like 4, and then I played semi-pro with Milwaukee Wave and stuff. But how did you like soccer?
Yeah, man. Oh, I thought soccer was like, because I had a lot of energy as a kid. I like to run. Yeah. So anytime I could just run and just like, I like soccer. And I always said, like, I don't know if I ended up growing into the build of like a soccer player. Mm-hmm. I feel like I got more of a wrestling build. I feel like I would want to play soccer, because I love to run. So
love that sport, man. Right now I keep watching like the girls' high school team and even just the boys' high school team. I'm like, man, I get my hands on that team, they would be in a national spot right now. God, just give me a chance and I'll take them there. But that was kind of fun watching Liam, because he was a multi-sport for a little bit as a kid, and then he played soccer, and then he actually just had gym class, and he can pick up on a lot of sports, and that's kind of how I was. Like you watch someone do it, and you're like, oh, okay, I can do that part a little bit, and then I figure the rest out. Yeah, that's kind of how he is. Well, he was playing badminton, and his gym teacher's like, you can play this too? Like, what else? What else is there? And Liam was telling me about that, and he's like a little surprised. He's like, it's weird. I could just kind of play these sports. I was like, I had the same thing. I said, it's just called natural athletic ability. That's all it is. You pick up on stuff, and then you if you practice it enough, you become good at it. And I was hoping that would turn into soccer for him, but not so much. So he focused on wrestling. Yeah. But I'm happy with that too. It's just as good. And look at what we're doing with it. So. With that being said, how was your transition, or when was your transition into all year wrestling? Because you wound up doing freestyle right away. When did you wind up doing other styles?
Yeah, I did. I think I started doing freestyle like pretty early. Okay. So I did. I don't know if they still have the schoolboy.
Yes. Yeah, they did. They do. Yeah.
Is midget before schoolboy?
Midget's something that's like PA in Illinois. We don't do a midget here. I can't remember. Okay, yeah. So there was like schoolboys like 14 years old, 15 years old, and now it's like U15 and all. They change it to like numbers and stuff. So I get lost in that.
Yeah. It was easier with the names back then.
Way back.
But to be honest, now I've been doing freestyle for a long time. And it was just, mainly because my coach, growing in Pitbull, Sonny, he was, from Japan. He was on the Japan Olympic team. Yep. So he instilled freestyle in us like at a young age.
That's awesome.
So
that's good.
Yeah. So I got through all the rule sets at one. It was back when, takedowns were 1 point. Yeah. And it was the one where you had to wrestle everyone in the bracket. Yeah. So it was yeah. So I like the rules now. They reward takedowns a little bit now. So.
A little more now. Like I said, you're the angle finder, so you find a way to get takedowns. It's just watching a lot of sometimes
like
in your reattacks too. Just watching some of that, it's just crazy, and just that little turn that you made with your foot just to come around the corner and boom, you nail, and the guy's like, oh, you're still trying to reach for a leg, and it's like, no, you're done.
I know it's funny. A lot of people ask me like, and I have the techniques for it and stuff, but a lot of it is just feel. Like a lot of it's more like it's hard to teach. It's like it's just something. I've been hitting that shot for 20 years. And
you're right.
Just a feel at this point, you know.
Yeah. So let's dive into high school a little bit. You finished. Was it 147 and 21? I think in high school you were.
Yeah, it sounds about right.
Something like that. I mean, so you were a 2-time PIA runner-up, and you're a 2-time PIAL champion. The thing that I'm even kind of looking at the most here too is, I mean, because your state's already hard. We already know that Pennsylvania, all that stuff, that's a tough state to wrestle in, so it doesn't matter. So you look at the other competitions as well. I mean, not that it doesn't matter, but it's just we know it's hard.
All right. Yeah.
Powerade runner-up, 4-time Tournament of Champions champion, Super 32 finalist, placed 3rd and 15, and you were a finalist in 2016. Dapper Dan and USA Dream Team All-Star matches. So let's talk about that stuff a little bit. Where you're going into your freshman year, and I can only relate to this now just because my son just went through his freshman year. What was that transition like for you, going from a middle school kid into high school, and how much were you weighing then? I can't remember what your weight was your freshman year.
Yeah, I was 132.
Okay,
my freshman year in high school. Yep. So it was funny because I was mentioning the shoulder thing.
Yes. Yeah.
Yeah. So I actually had to miss early part of my freshman season because of that.
Okay.
And my first tournament back to high school was Powerade.
yeah,
so,
for sure.
Yeah, so I was a freshman coming in. I had no warm up essentially, and I got thrown right into Powerade. And I think I ended up I took the semi slide. I think I ended up making the semis. I think, but I ended up getting 6. So, but to me that was like that was something I always grew up watching Powerade. So I was like, obviously you want to win, but I was like, okay, that was, I was pretty proud of that. But it was a different type of competition, and I felt that like early on. I'm like, these guys are it's different, so it was, let's say it was like a hard transition because I was like used to just adapting to a tough competition, but it was definitely an adjustment.
It was maybe a level up, because even watching you I saw a couple of the matches, and even watching some of those matches, it wasn't like you weren't there. It just seemed like there's just a mat sense type level that was just a little different, and that was really it. I mean, honestly, watching the speed, watching your strength, and how you wrestled, didn't seem like there was really too much difference. Just a little bit of mat sense difference, but it's like, dude, you caught up, man. Like, I mean, looking at some of the stuff you did in high school is like, not even like can even try to compare it to something else. So with that being said, so freshman year being cut a little short, whatever it was with the injury, did you still feel that the preparations that you were making throughout that freshman year were then going to, help propel you a little bit more the sophomore year?
Yeah, definitely. Because, I always, because even then, my dad was the high school coach as well.
Okay.
So I never got like a chance to escape the wrath of my dad. No. But so I just felt like, we had a system of how we, trained and everything. And I felt like, I'll catch up, and I'll be well set off for sophomore year. So so I didn't.
How was your sophomore year for you? Like, let's talk about a few moments. Like, what were some of the highlights of your sophomore year?
Oh, so funny enough, my freshman year, I actually, in the Whitfield to qualify for states, they took only 3.
Okay.
And so I happened to get 4th that year. I lost it. So I ended up not being able to make it, which was like pretty tough for me. But what gave me confidence was like, I lost in the quarters to 1-0 to the guy that ended up winning states.
Sure. Yeah.
And the other two guys, in the Whitfield, they ended up placing pretty high.
Okay.
So I'm like, dang, I felt like, so that was like a confidence thing in itself.
Yeah, for sure.
But then my next year, they changed the rule. So they took 4 to states. Yeah. So I ended up I got 4th again.
Yeah.
So I ended up qualifying to go to states, and then I placed up there. I got 6th.
Nice.
I think. And that was so that was like one of the highlights that kind of stick out to me as first time in states, first time placing.
Yeah, because I mean that's a big
that was also
for you guys, man.
yeah, very big. And that was also up a weight. So I ended up, I was 152.
Oh, that's what I want to ask. Yeah. So that's one question I was going to ask before. How did your parents do that, even with your brother? Because typically they'll learn a lesson. Like I've learned lessons with Liam. So typically you learn lessons of like, oh, that we can't do that with him, kind of thing. Did your parents ever wrestle you up in age group or weight classes?
Yeah, we were not a big weight cutting family.
Okay, I'll see there. Yep.
Yeah. It was more of if we would bump up rather than like cut some weight,
Okay.
And I do think that was very helpful to me, and not to say cut weight's bad or anything, but we just felt like for the longevity of it and to keep that like love, it's hard to maintain when you're you're miserable,
right?
So
I can't even do it. I don't even compete. I don't even like not eating something, man. I don't compete.
Hell, it's the worst. Dude.
It is the worst.
Yeah, I mean, in all honesty, it's one of the things that I think keeps kids away from wrestling is they don't want to have to do that.
I agree.
It's like it makes sense. I mean, who
doesn't want to eat?
I don't know who in their right mind would sign up for that, but
yeah, totally. So that was the kind of the one thing, especially with you guys, out in Pennsylvania, because wrestling is such a big part of life in most schools, and I know football is still too. But just kind of curious to see how the difference. I think I talked to like Bassett's a while back. This was a couple of years back, and just kind of asking them how they feel about weight cutting and things like that. And they're kind of the same way. Like they cut a little bit, here for important things, but then there's sometimes where they just don't cut it all because it's, hey, he did this for this past event and it's not, he doesn't need to do it again. We'll wrestle like this on this one. But it's just, just interesting from one side of the country to another, how much the mentality of this changes when it comes to weight loss and cutting. And Liam, for instance, I think it was just before COVID hit, he was 95 to 100 pounds and he was going to wrestle at U State at that weight. Well, COVID hit and we took him to middle school and we weighed him in at middle school and we're like, oh, well, he's 125 pounds. I said, pardon me? He's a what? Yeah. So I set him up for a 15. He was 11 or 12. So I set him up in a 15U at 125 pounds. And I said, this is what this is where you're going. So I didn't bring you here to win. Awesome. I brought you here to get your eyes open. Cause if you're going to weigh 125, you're going to get slapped around if you don't, start taking care of business. So just the difference in sometimes in just the wrestling environment or the sports environment in general with how deep it is by you guys to where it kind of gets a little different out by us with weight cutting because all this other stuff is in place. Do you guys have like weight descents in high school? Did you have that hydration tests and stuff?
We had the descent plan and everything.
Did you?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yep.
All right.
Yeah.
We'll get back into high school here. Your junior year was pretty successful. Let's talk about that a little bit. What brought on, I guess, any type of was there a mentality change? How was your junior year for you? And what were some of the highlights from that?
Yeah. So it was good. I'm trying to think if it was the summer into my sophomore year or my sophomore year going into my junior year, but I think it was sophomore going into junior. I entered, so I went to Super 32, the high school version at this point, because I've been doing the middle school up until then. And then, so I think that was a kind of a changing point in my high school career because it was the first time I got kind of recognized country wise. I feel like it was another one of those brackets where it was like my first round match at Super 32 that year was Greg Kirklavy.
I watched that match. Yeah.
So it's just like, and then so that was like,
you dominated
to kind of say how tough it was. Lucky, I tried it. I snuck one early, I could.
You did.
Yeah. So we, so that tour, I ended up getting third that tournament. It kind of put me on the map in a way where, I started beating some pretty good guys. And that kind of gave me a lot of confidence going into junior year.
Yeah.
And then at that point I was 170. So I was kind of kept bumping up in weight.
Yeah.
Yeah. I was growing up, I was tall and skinny. I was pretty tall.
Yeah.
But I never had that like width,
Sure.
I had no like,
sure. Yeah.
thick. So yeah, every year I just started getting a little thicker, but
yeah.
So yeah, then my junior year, I ended up making the Powerade finals that year. That was good. And then won Whippeals for the first time. And that was kind of a point where, that summer I started to win a lot on the high school level. And I ended up making the finals at States. And I lost to Labriola in the finals.
You're a section champ.
Yep, section champ. So I had starting to see a lot of success, and I started to get kind of recognized by, like flow, and I started getting the rankings a little bit. So that was something.
You were Super 32 finalist in 2016. And that was you won sections that year. You were Powerade champion 2016. So 16 was the breakout year, I think, for you. But with that being said, though, what do you think the transition was? What do you think? Was it just your practicing and your dedication to your craft and what you were doing, or what, do you think it was a maturity thing, or just all the kind of balled up into one?
Yeah, I think it's kind of all in one. I felt like the physical training, like that stuff would always come. I felt like, because that was something that I never worried about, because I always I lived a pretty good lifestyle. I always did kind of the right thing, so I was never concerned with I got to change anything up or anything like that.
Okay.
And I think it just came with just grow, just being on the scene for a couple of years now, and starting to get a little lay of the land, and as far as high school wrestling, and what better place to do it than PA? You get tested pretty early, so it was one of those things where when I would go to these Super 32 or these Powerade and I wrestle other states, I was ready. I had good competition at home. So yeah.
Yeah. Okay. So senior year, this is kind of, we're going to roll into your senior year a little bit more as far as kind of, we'll talk a little bit about the recruiting process and things like that. But with your senior year coming up and the things that just happened for you the year before, obviously confidence level is up and things like that. So that you have the right things in place to do whatever you need to get done. How does your senior year roll out for you?
Yeah. So, like you said, again, just winning, pretty frequently. And I ended up, winning Powerade finally. And so it's kind of funny, like I was full circle, I remember going there as a freshman, was happy to place. And then it got to that point where it's like not happy unless you win it, so it was kind of funny to see the transition. And then, one sections, one Whippeals, and, all year long. And obviously the goal was to win the state championship. And, that was a goal even, when I went to states as a sophomore, freshman, but that year it was really like, that was what was next. I checked off everything that I wanted to do. And that was, then the next part was the state, finals, and made it. And then unfortunately, it kind of didn't go my way. And so I ended up kind of leaving high school with that. I never won. So that was something that, looking back was a good thing for me, motivated me, but at the time it was stinking tough, Yeah,
man, you're coming out, like we just talked about, you're coming out of PA, man. So it's not like you guys are wrestling, slouches where you can just roll through a bracket all the time. So with that being said, I mean, it's not to look down on, but how was recruiting for you, and what was that process like for you coming, either part of your junior year and your senior year, or just your senior year? How did that go for you?
Yeah. It was So it honestly wasn't a crazy story. I always, because my brother went to Pitt. So, just training at Pitt and going to the PWC club.
Yeah.
I kind of always knew I was going to Pitt. It was the place I wanted to go. So when recruiting I think it was junior year, when you could start like verbalizing. I committed to Pitt like pretty early.
Like instantly.
So I never took any like visits. I talked to a few coaches, but my plan was to go to Pitt. So I don't really have any super good recruiting,
Well, and it's a different end of the spectrum, because you already had your kind of mind made up. I mean, your brother went there, like you said, so you probably had a relationship built with some of the coaches already, like you were in the room talking to the guys that were in the room, you probably grew with a little bit, and the coaches. So I mean, it makes sense. And that's great to have. I mean, I like the finality of things especially when you're going through a process like that. And I didn't go through it a lot because I sucked at school, so I didn't have anybody calling me. So I didn't really have the opportunity to be like, nah, I don't want to go there. I was more like, can you sign me up somehow? But knowing that you kind of had that, right. So you had a little bit of stress off your shoulders then, as far as kind of, I'm already training with the guys I like the coaches. So your senior year, did you really? I guess not really prove anything, but I kind of asked this a lot with some of the guys at the end of their senior years going into college. Were the end of the year tournaments, like, you get your super 32s again that come around, or whatever it is at the end that's big, that kind of mattered before? Did you cut some of the, like, I don't need to do this, I'm going here, they already know I'm going there, I don't need to wrestle, like Fargo's, things like that? When you were done your senior year, did you stop high school wrestling? Did you just start going into the college room and practicing, and you weren't doing any of the, last go around of the high school tournaments that you would have?
Right. Yeah, no, I definitely didn't do any more of the high school scene. So I didn't do, like, I think it was Flow Nationals. I did that the year before, I think, and that was another great one, but you didn't do that one. I didn't do Fargo or anything. I just kind of went straight to the room because I felt like that's where, if I'm going to gain anything out of getting better, it's going to be, in this room rather than maybe going to one of these tournaments. So, I started just to wrestle right away.
All right. So going into your freshman year, you redshirt, right? Yeah. Redshirt season.
Yep.
And it was a pretty good season. It was 19-4 for a freshman. I mean, you pinned Jack Miller. We'll open with that, which is pretty big. I mean, Jack Miller at the time I can't remember what he was ranked at the time, but then you had a pin against Riders, Matt McKenzie and stuff like that. So like, what was your, cause a lot of times I've talked to a couple of guys now that started their freshman year. What was that like for you on a redshirt season? What happens, I guess, as you go through a season? Do your coaches plan that out for you? Like, hey, we want you to go to this. We want you to go to this. Or are you able to kind of, hey, I would really like to wrestle in this one. Can I wrestle in this one? Do you get a little more freedom?
Yeah. So, I got a lot of free, and I don't want to speak for every other coach or kid, but for us, it was very like on your own sort of thing, which I think was good because, you didn't feel the pressure to have to go somewhere in the weekend. But, for me, I tried to hit every open I could. I tried to get a lot of them in because I just knew with reps, I'll get better, and
right.
So it was funny going into my freshman year. So we had a coaching change, the year I was going into Pitt, they decided to switch. They decided to go take different measures and get new coaches. So the year Keith Gavin and his staff got to Pitt was my first year as well. So it was kind of funny, like learning the college scene and everyone, but also learning about Keith because it was, I was always in contact with the other coaches. Yeah. So it was kind of like a new, like, interesting relationship. So it was, so that was kind of like part of the change. I think that was kind of interesting looking back.
Well, it kind of enters a whole new growth era of you, as a person. I mean, because you're going into college, it's a whole different transition, different time of life. And So you're kind of given some freedoms to be able to kind of figure out what you're doing. I mean, obviously it didn't go very wrong, like you did pretty good. Because looking at your sophomore year, still just as good, 21-8 on the season. You're ranked number 10. There's just a lot of stuff that you were climbing. It's kind of strange. I was talking to another guy and just kind of wondering, like, you were the lowest guy ranked in the finals, like especially I think this year or whatever it was, your progression just seems to, it's not, I wouldn't call it slow and easy, but it seems calculated. It seems like you're like, I got this step here, and it's this one, then it's this one, and you just kept getting better. So as you're going through your college with these new coaches, obviously it gelled well. I mean, because you didn't leave, you stayed at a very good wrestling school. But at the same point though, too, it just seemed like it was like, God, how come he didn't? I wonder why he never went out to the portal. So what was that relationship, since it was such a new environment with the coaches? How did that go with you guys?
Yeah, it was, well, it was like something right away. I felt like me and Keith and the coaches, like, I just felt like we had the same view of the sport, because it was, so back to, Pitbull with my club coach, Sonny Abe, he worked with Keith growing up and everything. And Keith he would come and stop in the Pitbull room and show moves. So, Keith kind of, I feel, had that similar mindset to me, because Sonny instilled in him and me of like, just to kind of work hard and really focus on getting better every day rather than like these big instrumental jumps. So when me and Keith kind of connected on that aspect of like, in practice, it was, how can we like expand our lane? How can we get just a little bit better today? And I felt like, because we were so similar in that aspect, we just gelled right away. And I think that is why you've seen, I wish I could say my progress was on purpose, but I think that's just why you've seen, I know, I wish I could sound cool and say that was by no coincidence, but I think that's why you saw some, like, like you said, my progress was kind of pretty steady, is because, I just felt like I was matching and meshing with those guys so good because of that.
Well, you're the angle finder, so the
angle finder.
It was just interesting because, like I said, you were lowest ranked, coming out of high school, and now you're number 30 pound for pound, dude, like across the country. So it's really good to see something, because you always hear about all these big names like, oh, they're doing this, but I like, because Liam does the same. Liam makes a lot of progress. He finds things out now, especially, and you guys kind of dig at it, and sometimes you don't want to deal with it because it's annoying, but then you get to that point of like, I need to get this done, and it's bam, it's just the laser focus is just there. So with that being said, going to your junior year, that was a fun one to watch, I saw again, there was the progress. You were 23-5. So you're getting better every year. So what stood out for your, in your brain as far as your junior year? How did that transition for you?
Yeah. So, well, I was just, as I was thinking about it, I always felt like, because it's such a young age, I had such this mindset of like just continuing to just really like pushing my limits every day. And I felt like I made so much progress, and I put, in high school and everything, in college, I felt like I put so many hours in that I felt like I was not lapping people, but I just felt like I had I was getting ahead of people because, I put in all this work, but I was also doing like the right thing outside the room. And I felt like, it felt like I got to a point where I couldn't, I was starting to gain like distance between me and like, some of these guys, like obviously the elite guys I wanted to beat. That's who I was trying to catch. But I was trying to distinguish myself from the guys that, I could maybe normally beat. And then, so then going into junior year, I felt like I had success in college, but I felt like I started to have that itch to like, I want to be like, yes, like I was winning, I'm winning the ones I'm supposed to, but I want to beat these top guys. You know, it kind of switched from like wanting to now be in the conversation with these top guys in the country. And I felt like that was like a time where my mind really shifted to like wanting to be like just the best, you know?
Yeah. So you talk a lot about your, you know, outside of the wrestling room, you talk a lot about that. What, and we've had some other guys comment on it before too. There's the trappings of having fun, going out and partying. You know, what do you find that to be the hardest obstacle in college, especially coming from high school? And, you know, you're a young man, who doesn't want to have fun, right? I mean, doesn't mean that it doesn't mean that you're going out getting hammered every night, but I mean, staying up late can hurt, you know, staying up till 1 o'clock in the morning, 2 o'clock in the morning can affect your day. And if you have a hard training day, it shows. So was that the hardest part for you in college? I mean, because you have to grow as a person, but you're a young person. There's a lot of temptation around. How was that for you to kind of eliminate that from your background, I guess, just to kind of background noise kind of stuff? I don't want to deal with it. You're out of here. How was that for you?
Yeah. So personally, I felt like it wasn't the hardest thing for me. That I feel like, I mean, I guess I could tell you what the hardest thing of college wrestling is, but as far as like the outside influence, I do think that's a big part in you know, some certain guys' progression or not. I think because a lot of time you're now on your own, whereas, you know, in high school you're kind of under your parents' roof and you got a lot of eyes on you. I think it's a little harder to maybe get away with some stuff, but, you know, once you go to college, I feel like you see a lot of guys kind of let loose a little bit. And I don't know if that's because, you know, you might have success in high school. So therefore you think, you know, like you might have done it in high school and you think, you know, I won back then when I did it, you know, now I could do the same thing in college, and it's not really the case. And some cases they're definitely, you know, it's possible, but for me, it was something that I felt like I could never do, you know? So it was, so I do think there's a lot of temptation, and I do think you kind of have to be a little different to want to, you know, it's hard. It's definitely hard. It's hard to, you know, want to go to bed early that night, or, you know, you see all your friends going to have fun, and you're, you know, you're like, I'm going to head back and go. So it's definitely hard. But it's one of those things where it's like, or at least for me, I viewed it as like, you know, what do you want to do? Like, what's your priority? Do you want to have this temporary fun, or do you want to try to get something that not many people can get? So that was kind of how I kind of looked at it.
So here's one question for you, because I think you guys are at the at least probably right around the time when you were in youth is when social media really started to come around, right?
Yeah.
How does that affect you guys on the college level? And I know you've gotten to a point, like even going through high school, where you're like, I don't care, whatever, blah, blah. So you develop that mentality, but there's a lot being said by people who don't know shit. You know what I'm saying? So they don't know what they're talking about, you know, so things like that. And how are you a guy that's, and obviously I know you're on it, that's kind of how we communicated, but are you a guy that doesn't, you're on it just to check a couple things out and then you're done? Like Liam just deleted it all off of his phone. Now he didn't delete his accounts, but he took it off his phones. No notifications, no stuff like that. How was that for you growing up with those influences like that? Did you learn? And obviously you had an older brother who was, you know, dealing with college life, stuff like that, but everybody's brain is a little different. How did you deal with social media and coming up and trying to stay quiet, or hearing someone talk smack and resisting the want to be like, hey dude, you don't know what you're talking about, you know, that kind of stuff.
Right. No, so funny enough, I didn't get too exposed to it growing up, because my parents, they didn't get me a phone until I was in like 8th grade.
Awesome.
So so when I was like young, I would I would text my buddies on my mom's like flip phone, you know, when I was like
awesome.
12. I know, I'm texting, like, I'm like, Mom, let me use your phone. And I'm like, hey man, you want to get a pizza later or something? And then like throughout the day, I'm like, Mom, did they text back yet? You know? So I
that's awesome.
So I never had like a phone, and I felt like it helped me because I never grew up like feeling like I was like addicted.
For sure.
social media or anything. But it's funny because I was actually similar to your son. This past season, I wasn't sure if you want to wait to tell you, but like I also got off social media because of that.
We're gonna talk about that as soon as we start talking about this
I'll
year.
Mention that.
Yeah,
I guess I'll mention that later.
Yeah,
but, so
we're gonna get into it right now. We're gonna we talked about you. You know, you had your match against AJ Ferrari. I watched that one.
Yep.
That was a good match. I mean, there was not and honestly, it just kind of boiled down to, I think it was like a 4-point difference at the end. But I mean, you're right there the whole time, and I'll be honest with you. And he looked like he was respectful during the match and stuff like that. But the way he wrestles, I can't stand that. He's baiting with his leg and standing with the arm down with the other one up in the air. It's just a personal thing. It's just me.
Yeah,
but it's fucking annoying watching him wrestle. I'm like, God, get in a stance or do something. But it's just the way he wrestles. But
it was a very I always look back. I'm like, that was a very weird match.
Yeah.
It felt like very chess game type match rather than because I like getting in a battle, you're shooting, I'm shooting. It felt very strategic.
He was waiting for you.
It was
So my son Liam, my son just actually had one at the Christmas tournament in Minnesota, and he wrestled a kid he'd never wrestled. I mean, he's a freshman, and this was an upperclassman, and he did the same thing that AJ Ferrari did in that match. When I was watching it the whole time, I was getting flashbacks of that match. I was like, he's not even doing it. He's waiting for you guys to score. They're sitting there waiting for you to try and score because they have some kind of a plan. And you didn't allow him to do that. I mean, because you still went in for shots, and he wasn't able to just go behind on you, things like that. But just sitting there baiting and waiting, to me, and then I don't like when guys just ride around on their knees and just slide around on their knees the whole time. He did that in the fucking match. I was like, God, just get off your knees and wrestle. And you could hear the ref saying, "Hey, action, dude. Let's wrestle."
Yeah, right. But no, I agree.
Good wrestler. He said, he looked at you at the end. He's like, "Oh, good match, man." And then he, went on his back or whatever, just kind of laying there. But
yeah.
What was that season like for you? Because that was a big. I mean, you had you beat Patrick Brucky. You revenged that. You had a couple other decent wins in the season. So how was that season for you? Because I mean, again, 18-5 record. You got better because it wasn't just the amount of guys that you beat; it was who you beat. That's what. That's what I started to notice that year. I was like, oh man, I was like, this is gonna get even better coming into this year. So that's where I was already kind of, and I fell off of wrestling for a little bit. We were traveling around so much, we watched some, but once we got into last year with the COVID year, you were able to kind of slow down because everything wasn't really going on. So we were able to watch you guys. I mean, you lost to Elam or whatever in round of 12, but then you beat Brucky, and then it was just it was a snowball effect after that.
Right.
So how was that? How was that year for you?
Yeah. So I look back. So this is where I really enjoy talking about it, because I felt like, when I look back on my college career, I look at, obviously all the, redshirt freshman year, all that stuff. But when I think of my quote unquote story, I think back to the COVID, when we got canceled for COVID. So I was a 184 pounder back then. And so the COVID, and my mom, we like to eat here. So that whole COVID, and I like lifting, and it was a lot of just eating and lifting, and kind of just taking a lot of time off till I got develop to be a 97 pounder. So that whole year was just kind of an adjustment, just getting bigger and just, having not wrestling. That was the longest time I haven't wrestled in my whole life, So that was a weird thing in itself. And then to come back and then make the finals. And then the biggest thing for me was, then I would go on, I'd make the U23 world team,
national team. Yep.
Yeah. So I felt like I had a lot of success, and I was like, I started to hold myself to a pretty high standard. And the following year after that, the one where, I lost in the round of 12, it was, I chalked it up to just a lot of me wrestling to just win, and it was something that, my whole life. And it's you're all just, you want to win everything. And you know, while that's not bad, I felt like it kind of hurt me in a way. And I think it made me wrestle tight, and it made me wrestle just afraid to lose, because I wanted to win so much. And it was hard, because my whole life growing up, it was like, you know, just all in, you know, you give everything you have. And that's why the losing is so tough, because I did put everything I had into the sport. So for it to not pan out, it's like, it's very emotional.
It burns.
You know? So
it burns, man. I definitely believe it.
Right. And I do think that's why, you know, I think some people, you know, back to like the partying thing, I think some of it has to do with, you know, guys are, you don't want to commit yourself fully, because, you know, if it doesn't plan out, it is going to really hurt, you know. And I think it's almost like a safe way to like not hurt yourself, you know what I'm saying? So back to like, you know, I didn't place and everything, and it was I was figuring a lot of stuff out, you know, that summer leading into this year, this past summer leading into this year. And a lot of my growth came from, you know, I spiritually, you know, in my faith and everything. And I just felt like I really grew as a wrestler, and really started to value wrestling just to wrestle. And I kind of got away from just the winning. Like, it wasn't about winning or losing anymore. It was about just loving it, you know. And then
the mentality
obviously
shift.
Right. Then obviously this year it, you know, worked out. And I look back at those like moments, and it feels like a really good full circle sort of thing, you know.
So let's jump into this year here. So you came in, so I mean, you just on fire. I'll just say it that way. I think you already knew what your goal. I mean, you knew what your goal was all along, but it was almost like you. And I don't know if it was just unconscious or whatever, but the way you wrestled was just, it was on. I think you only had like 1 or 2 overtimes that year, right? This past year.
Yeah, I had two overtimes. Yep.
Yeah. I one of them was Brown and Gold. I saw that match. That was a great match, man. It's fun watching you two wrestle. But
oh my God, he's a bull.
He is a bull, man. I was watching some of the matches he had too. Was great. But let's talk about from beginning to end here. You're leading up to your championship match here. What was one of the first things you told yourself before you even went on the competition mat this year?
I said to myself, and you know, my inner circle kind of knows where my head was, and I said, regardless of the outcome of my matches, you know, I'm gonna walk off every match, like being like, that was everything I had. Okay, I'm gonna get 100%. So it was really about not. I didn't care if I won or lost anymore, because I felt like, you know, I've won the highest of highs, and I've had a lot of lowest of lows, losses. So reality, what does it matter anymore? You know, I've won, I've lost. So I'm like, so now I'm fortunate enough to have one more year. I'm just going to freaking wrestle, man. So that was kind of my headspace going into, you know, my first match and everything.
So what is, do you think because just watching how you wrestle, do you think a large, I guess, for lack of a better term, advantage is either length or strength? How tall are you?
So I'm 6'1".
Wow.
Yeah. I think a lot of my advantage of it is I think strength in the aspect of like, not to brag or anything. I feel like
do it.
Yeah, I feel like when I am able to get my hands locked around a leg.
Yep.
I'm pretty strong in there, and I have a very good feel for finishing.
Yeah.
So I felt like my advantage was finding a way to get to the leg, whether that's very unorthodox or with my eyes closed or something. Yeah. But so I found I had a unique way of getting to a leg, and once I get it to that leg, not giving it back up, and then finding a way to finish. So I felt like that was kind of something that I was always fortunate enough to kind of have. So
yeah, because you're the angle finder.
Yeah,
that's right. So
yeah, thanks.
I've got if I do, I'll make sure, and we'll make sure that all proceeds go to you. We'll do it.
Yeah,
we'll do it for sure.
Good.
So with that being said, in your championship match, it was against Sloan, right? I think it was Tanner Sloan.
Right.
Yeah.
Right.
So your season, and we could talk about the season all day, but the big moment here. What are you thinking? You're climbing your way and just watching some of your interviews, and you didn't look. Here's the thing, and maybe people know this about you, maybe they don't. You are true to your interviews. Like anytime these guys are asking you questions, it's almost like we could almost like hear what you're going to say before you say it, because you're just that true to what you do. So with that being said, you're kind of building your way through the tournament. How let's say you get into the quarterfinals, where are you mentally going into matches like that? Because now, and we can say this about all kinds of tournaments, but just, usually the first couple matches, as long as you're put in the proper spot, may not be too difficult. They're going to be a challenge, but they may not be too difficult. So you get yourself in the quarterfinals. Where are you mentally at quarterfinals?
Well, I'm very, I was more calm than I ever been, because, I've been there a couple times, but it was more so a calmness from, everything I was doing up to that point I felt like was the right thing I was doing. So I just didn't feel any like panic, and I just felt like I was wrestling at a different level. And regardless of who I was wrestling, I just felt like, it didn't matter kind of what they did. I knew what I was capable of. So it was more of just like an inner peace of like, I don't care who this guy or could be anyone. I feel like I'm going to get to my thing, So.
Yeah. Cause it's just, it's funny because just watching those interviews and then watching after you win the championship, it was just obviously because you got it, right? You're excited and the difference to what, like you had to stay kind of focused still, cause you're still in a tournament. To being done and like watching, like how many times you looked up like at the ceiling and stuff, was like, he's feeling it. He's super excited. So let's talk a little bit before we let's talk a little bit about the match. Did you have some butterflies going in?
To be honest, I think if I looked back, probably now, I probably did a little bit.
Sure.
In the moment, though, I really didn't.
Okay.
It sounds like, it sounds like funny. It sounds like, and that's what everyone says, but I really felt pretty good. I honestly felt pretty calm, and and I think that just the calmness came from just the fact that I wasn't worried about, how I did. It was just more of like, I'm just going to, I've been doing this every day for 20 years. What's there to be like, nothing's going to happen out there that I haven't probably felt 1,000 times. So I was like, more so like, what's to be nervous about, man? Just kind of take it in,
Yep. So you got it done. And to me, I knew that this year was going to be the year, just watching you and knowing the things that were going on. But now you win, right? Now I've already heard one story about this. You got done with your interview. What happens after you're done with your interview?
I walk right in Trump. That was one of them.
So that was a fun part, right? You got to run into that guy and say hi. So so you got to, and I think everybody did. I think he was sitting at right at the end of where everybody walked off.
Yeah.
Oh,
I took
God.
a double take because I walked past him at first, and everyone was like, "There's Trump right there," and I just turned around, and he's like right in my face. I'm like, "Oh shit!
How'd I miss that?"
I know. I'm like, "Oh, what's up?" And we were laughing, like we had a little party yesterday, and I was like, "Dude, I should have went up to him like, oh, where do I know you from?" Like I should have acted like I didn't
know you somewhere, man.
I feel like you're from Home Alone, right? You were in that.
That's great.
I know, but yeah, so it was really cool. It was very like overwhelming. There was like a lot of emotion, and I was getting dragged to different places, and the drug test. So I know you had Pat Glory on. I don't know if we were. Dude.
Told me the whole story. You said you were sitting in the back doing sit-ups back there trying to get pee to build up.
Dude, it was, oh my God, because they're rushing you to pee.
Yes.
And like, it was harder than the freaking tournament, man. You're like, you're trying to pee, you're on the floor, and he walks in, and I'm curled up like on my side trying to do some crunches.
Yeah.
Like, good job, Pat. And he like comes in, dude. It was horrible.
Pat's like, I didn't have to pee, but I had to poop. So I asked him if they would take a different sample for a test.
Yeah. Oh, dude, it was like, and then the guy was like telling me, he's like, they had a shower, and he's like, you can hop in the shower if that makes you more comfortable. I'm like, I just want to go see my family.
Right?
Like,
exactly.
Dude, I could not pee like for the life of me. It was like, it was freaking hard.
So I think we petition the NCAA and be like, hey, the champions wait around all day to wrestle. You know how they do that? How about you test them then? How about that?
Oh my God, dude, that's funny. I gotta look back and I want to watch what he says. I think that's so funny.
That is whole because I asked it, that was one of the things that I think Liam had asked it or whatever, but it was one of the things that we had asked, like, hey, what was that like? Because you see all the stuff kind of before they go into the interview, and then after that you don't see them anymore, and you think it's the meeting up with the family in the locker room and stuff. He's like, no, man, I didn't see my family like 2.5 hours after I got done with all the stuff.
Yeah,
like,
man.
Are you kidding me? Like, that's almost like imprisonment.
Oh, 2 hours. You're crammed in this room and you're freaking huddled on the floor trying to pee.
Oh, God.
I know. So if you're listening, it's like, you win the title. It's not as glorious as
it's like an internment camp for wrestlers. Yeah, it doesn't sound all that great, man.
Yeah.
So what did you do? You got released, right? The NCAA releases you out to the world. What did you do right after that? You met up with your family? Did you guys just go home and hang out, or did you go somewhere to celebrate? What'd you do?
Yeah, so I met up with the fam. Obviously, it was very very emotional.
Hell yeah!
So they met me in my hotel.
Okay.
And we went to my room. We got a pizza.
Nice.
And, I had a lot of friends and stuff coming in and out. And so it was just kind of like a little celebration.
Yeah.
And obviously, as much as we could in our like little hotel. And
nice.
So they drove up, and they were in a different hotel. So it was like, at that point, it was like 2 a.m. So they ended up heading home and driving home and everything.
Yeah.
And, so yeah, just pizza. I got a Mountain Dew, and
nice.
I just had the trophy there. It was
just looking at the trophy. That's right.
Yeah, man. We got a Domino's pizza, and I had it like right on the table.
Yeah.
And I had a big piece of pizza, and I'm like, in the trophy, I'm like, it don't get better than this right here.
Did you talk? Yeah. If I was me, I'd have been talking to the trophy, be like, yeah, I've been waiting to have you sitting here having pizza with me.
Dude, I was talking to it. And
that's awesome.
I honestly, this is so cliche, but I've always taught. People have always said, like, you're gonna sleep with the trophy, and I was like, I'm going to.
Yeah.
So I put it right next to my pillow, and I slept with it that
night. dude, I want to do a video of that, and then have you. Then you get up, you wake up in the morning, it's next to you in the sink while you're brushing your teeth, and then it's right next to you when you're making breakfast.
Right, and I just like look. I'm like, hey, you.
Yeah.
I love you. Yeah.
How are you doing today? Buckle it up in the car. Yeah, we could do a whole thing with that. It'd be great.
I know.
But
that's awesome.
Well, dude, I'm really happy for you. It's been fun watching you, and it's been a ride. Like I said, the progress has been great, and being able to have a kid, in my household that's a bigger kid too, and watching just some of the stuff that you've done, it kind of, you open things up a little bit more for. It's cliche, like, oh well, all these kids they do this. But it does matter. These guys do watch. They don't necessarily say that you are the king of the world kind of thing, but they admire what you do. And right. A lot of the parents do too, because they see the progress that you made, number one, but also the types of choices, like you said, being in school, it's not easy. There's choices as a young adult that you have to make on your own, that you guys are trying to pick a college for the next 4 years when you haven't even figured out how to, change oil in a car probably yet, so it's watching you guys grow and just watching the intelligence and just watching you guys develop has been really fun. So, I mean, all congratulations to you, dude. I've had you on here for an hour and 12 minutes, man. I really appreciate you taking the time out. We're probably going to end it right here, but what kind of advice do you have for the kids out there as far as some of the stuff you see now? Like what kind of advice do you have for kids coming up that are looking to get into the college scene?
Yeah, man, I would definitely say it's something that I was, thinking actually, and it's, I had a lot of lofty goals growing up as a wrestler, as
Sure.
does everyone. But I think it's important to not let the goals and your results dictate, how you end up. Like I never won a state title, and maybe in the beginning of high school I was never very highly touted or anything. But I think the best thing you can do is just kind of don't let the losses and the ups and downs kind of define your career.
Sure.
It's all about the progress and just staying consistent, trying to make the right choices, and just realizing that, while it seems long when you're in it, wrestling seems like a long career, it goes by faster than you know. So I always thought, why not give everything you have to this, what's a short time period in your life, and just see how far you can go, man. So that's probably something that I'd say to guys, if they're going to take anything from what I've been saying, is just, why not just give it your all and do the right stuff.
I think that's been your message, is just kind of having fun. Yep. You know what you're doing at some point, so just have fun with it. So what's coming up in the future for you?
So right now I'm trying to work out what I want to do. I'm thinking about I want to get into coaching.
Okay.
Whether that's so I'd like to get into coaching and maybe compete or ideally I'd like to do a little bit of both, be able to coach while also compete as well. So just kind of working that out and kind of finalizing where, the best fit is and what would be best for me and everything. So that's kind of the plan right now. Taking a little time just to kind of chill and soak it in, but that's kind of something I've been working with and trying to figure out. So
no US Open for you?
No, I'm not. I'm not going to do the Open. I qualify for the trials already.
Oh, okay. All right.
Yeah. So gotcha. I'm figuring out, how I want to, if I want to compete and when. I'm trying to work through some bumps and bruises from the season and just the career as a whole.
Yeah.
But yeah. So whether it's soon or sooner or later, I'll definitely be competing in some capacity. So
all right, cool, man. Well, you got anything you want to plug? You got pluggables out there?
I got no plugs, man. More so just to all my team, everyone that's kind of helped me over these years. It's almost impossible to name all of them, but for the ones who know. And,
right.
Very grateful for them and grateful for you, man. Appreciate you having me on. I'm sorry I was a little funky with the time slots and everything, but you've been great.
Dude, I brain farted on that. We go out to East Coast so much that I can't believe I brain farted the time change of like, we're like, oh yeah, 2:00 our time. I'm like, yeah, 3:00 our time. I'm like, what is wrong with you? So no, I appreciate having you on, man. It's been great. You've been a great guy. You've been fun to watch, and hopefully, I want to talk to you for just a second once we're done here, but it's definitely going to be fun watching you coach, because I can't wait to see the kids that you wind up coaching and see how they do. So with that being said, we're going to end the Vision Quest podcast for now. And then it's been, dude, NCAA champion, Nick Bonaccorsi. Dude, it's awesome. Yeah. It's awesome.
Thank you, brother.
Yeah, not a problem. All right, we're going to hang up with the folks here. I'm going to talk to you a little bit when we're done, but I appreciate everybody listening. All of our episodes are brought to you by Appleton Tattoo, located at 117 South Appleton Street in Appleton, Wisconsin, right off the main drag on College Avenue. You can't miss them. I've had some work done. I have a Celtic cross that covers my back that was done by Jason. We're not done yet. Jason Winans and crew, the artists that he have there, those guys are the best in the Fox Valley. They are definitely one to go to if it's something that you've just been kind of throwing around. They'll make you feel comfortable. It's a very clean environment, very nice crew, and very willing to get done whatever you need done when you need it done. You can message them on Facebook. I know they're on Facebook. You can give them a call at 920-604-8289 and get in touch with Jason Winans and crew at Appleton Tattoo, located again in Appleton, Wisconsin at 117 South Appleton Street, right in Appleton. Very flexible hours, great crew, clean environment again. I would not send you anywhere else except for these guys. Appleton Tattoo.